Welcome to this explainer. So, the next time you're watching a game, I really want you to look closely at the players on the field. You aren't just looking at traditional sports stars anymore. What you're actually looking at are meticulously calibrated, incredibly sophisticated biomechanical engines. And today, we're going to completely unpack the rigorous clinical science and data analytics that have fundamentally pushed the limits of human athletic performance.
To really understand this transformation, we have to grasp one core concept, and that's biophysical optimization. But what does that actually mean in plain English? Well, we're talking about the systematic, entirely data-driven calibration of human physiological systems. The goal is simple, but honestly it's profound. Maximize explosive power, accelerate rapid recovery, and achieve absolute longevity. Today's elite performance levels aren't based on guesswork or just working hard. They are driven entirely by molecular science and continuous telemetry.
Alright, so here is our exact game plan for how we're going to deconstruct the modern athletic bioengine today. We're starting with the Milan lab data model, then moving into wearables and load management, exploring precision hydration, and finally, we'll unpack clean fuel nutritional protocols. Let's get into it. Starting with our foundation, the Milan lab data model, and exactly how predictive telemetry changed the game forever. You see, the transition to rigorous sports science really began to take shape back in the early 2000s. At AC Milan, a chiropractor named Jean-Pierre Mersman founded the Milan lab, and he operated on a pretty fascinating philosophy, the idea that 1/100th of a second is the literal mathematical margin between winning and losing, or between peak system performance and total system failure. Milan Lab started treating the athlete's body as a highly interconnected system, where microscopic data margins dictated the outcomes. This was a massive paradigm shift. It took sports medicine from being purely reactive, treating injuries after they happen, to being proactively predictive.
What's wild is how they did it. They pioneered the use of neural networks to foresee physiological breakdowns before they even occurred. By measuring things like structural alignment through kinesiology and neurological readiness through vast arrays of biomarker data, they could adjust a player's physical load in real time. Just to give you an idea of how precise this got, they famously extracted a player's wisdom teeth to correct a groin issue, entirely based on structural alignment data. Honestly, it was unprecedented at the time.
And hey, the results were completely undeniable. Just take the number 41. That is the age the legendary defender Paolo Maldini played until at an absolute elite level, operating squarely under this exact Milan lab framework. By adhering to this personalized, data-driven regimen, athletes sustained peak physical outputs with minimal mechanical wear, far, far beyond the traditional athletic retirement age. Okay, moving on to our second topic, wearables and load management. Let's see how this predictive data actually works in real time today. Building right on that foundation of predictive data, modern players now wear form-fitting biometric pods beneath their jerseys. And no, these aren't just glorified step counters. These vests house high-frequency triaxial accelerometers and integrated gyroscopes. Honestly, think of it exactly like the real-time telemetry used in a Formula One car. They capture hundreds of data points every single second, tracking real-time heart rate variability and high-intensity directional changes. This allows sports scientists to calculate the precise mechanical strain on the body, specifically monitoring the immense eccentric strain placed on soft tissue like hamstrings during explosive decelerations. To put that sheer volume of work into perspective, we're currently seeing an astonishing 85% increase in the frequency of explosive physical actions compared to historical baselines. Modern data-driven load management allows the athlete to execute this massive increase in intensity without suffering critical, system-failing soft tissue injuries. It's incredibly proactive. If an athlete even approaches their specific physiological threshold, the live data flags them instantly for a training modification.
Because of this meticulous, second-by-second calibration, we are seeing athletes reach mind-blowing top speeds. By avoiding excessive mechanical strain and perfectly calibrating the workload, the human bioengine can now approach velocities of an incredible 40 kilometers per hour. We are quite literally pushing the absolute limits of human biophysics out there on the pitch.
Next up is precision hydration and sweat mapping, which is basically the science of calibrating the body's internal cooling system.
Hydration in elite sports is no longer about just grabbing some water when you feel thirsty. Not at all. It is an exact molecular science now. Here's how it actually works. First, scientists apply localized dermal patches to a player's forearms and lower back during peak exertion. Next, they take the collected sweat and run a highly advanced flame photometry analysis to measure exact extracellular outputs.
Finally, based on that highly individual data, they formulate customized sodium and electrolyte concentrations perfectly tailored to maintain that specific player's osmotic pressure and blood volume.
And the variance between individuals is actually staggering when you map it out. Standard, generic hydration is simply too hypotonic for these athletes. For instance, one player might lose a negligible 200 milligrams of sodium during a session, while another might lose a massive 2,000 milligrams. To put that in perspective, that is almost a full teaspoon of salt lost per liter of sweat. Those heavier sweaters require highly concentrated patented formulas to prevent blood dilution, cardiovascular strain, and debilitating cellular crashes.
All right, let's pivot to our fourth topic, clean fuel nutritional protocols. We're talking strictly about high-octane combustible inputs here.
So, uncalibrated free-for-all diets, those have been entirely replaced by strict, clean nutritional protocols designed specifically for rapid cellular regeneration. The crucial phrase to remember here is dynamic macronutrient management. On a match day, to optimize their glycogen resynthesis, an athlete might load up with 7 grams of complex carbs per kilogram of body weight. But on a recovery day, that load drops significantly, down to just 2 grams. It's all about strategically adjusting fuel intake based on exact output requirements. This prevents unwanted mass accumulation and really promotes metabolic flexibility.
The preferred combustibles for the optimized bioengine consist entirely of clean, high-quality proteins and complex carbohydrates. Pioneers like Arsène Wenger totally revolutionized the game by banning processed sugars and refined carbs. Today, elite diets feature lean fish like swordfish and cod for amazing anti-inflammatory omega-3s and black rice for slow-release glycogen. You'll also see steamed chicken and egg whites for bioavailable amino acids, completely paired with purified alkaline water for system flushing. It is a strictly calibrated fuel source, totally devoid of heavily processed elements.
Now, to sustain this incredible physical output, these athletes are consuming up to 3,200 calories a day, but they definitely don't do it in standard, heavy meals. The system requires exactly 6 small, carefully calculated refueling events spaced evenly every 3 to 4 hours throughout the day. This frequent feeding ensures highly stable energy levels, prevents unwanted insulin spikes, and optimizes continuous muscle recovery without ever causing splanchnic congestion, which, if you don't know, is just that heavy, sluggish feeling you get right after digesting a massive meal.
By rigidly segmenting these macronutrients, keeping lean proteins dedicated to cellular repair, complex carbohydrates for steady glycogen storage, and essential fats for joint lubrication and inflammation control, the results are amazing. This strict dietary discipline keeps systemic inflammation way down and stabilizes the bioengine at an incredibly lean 7% body fat. And naturally, post-operation, the fuel and cooling systems must be complemented by advanced recovery protocols. Tools like cryotherapy are absolute standard practice now. We are talking about exposing the body to a staggering negative 140 degrees Celsius for just 2 to 3 minutes. This extreme cold induces massive vasoconstriction, immediately flushes out metabolic waste, drastically reduces delayed onset muscle soreness, and restores power output faster than anyone previously thought possible. Finally, let's wrap up by looking at system limits and what the future of biomechanical engineering actually holds for us. We've seen exactly how data, telemetry, and clean clinical fuel optimize the modern bioengine. But science never stops, and it's already engineering the next paradigm. Looking ahead, we are moving from external telemetry to absolute internal genetic and microscopic optimization. In the near future, we'll see extreme gut microbiome optimization to maximize nutrient absorption. And looking even further, we're talking nutrigenomics, literally designing meals based on an exact genetic profile, and continuous fluid monitoring mid-game, reading live glucose and lactate levels without ever drawing a single drop of blood. Which brings us to a really